Congresswoman McBath is now recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you so much, Ranking Member Morelli, and all of the witnesses that are here today. We really appreciate you. And I just want to say in response to my Republican colleague, it always matters with the closing of our polling stations and the number of drop boxes that we have here in Georgia. Specifically, we saw a great number of individuals that had great difficulty in actually being able to exercise the right to vote. So yes, those things do matter. But I just want to say that I was born in Joliet, Illinois, in the heart of the civil rights movement. My father was the town's only black dentist, and my mother was a registered nurse. And they cared for people. By day, they worked to heal the sick bodies and mend the broken bones, but by night, they worked to treat the ills of a different kind. They were civil rights advocates fighting to inspire spirits that had long been battered and bruised. My father was the Illinois branch president of the NAACP, and in our household, it was expected that from the moment that we could walk, we would be marching and fighting for civil and human rights as well. We marched alongside our parents in the baking summers and the frigid winters, and I often joke and say the first song I ever learned to sing was "We Shall Overcome," because we were always singing that song. And I learned that we are not to be afraid, and I also know that deep in my heart we truly will overcome. I'm a daughter of the civil rights movement, and I'm a daughter of this country, and when you live a childhood that is dedicated to the fight for justice, the right to vote becomes sacred. It becomes your voice when there are those who seek to silence your voice. And it was in my lifetime that literacy tests and poll taxes continue to disenfranchise the descendants of slaves. And even with all the gains that we have made, it's clear that this work is far from over. Because each and every one of us has seen the lines on Election Day, particularly here in Georgia, the lines on Election Day extending around the block. Each and every one of us in the state of Georgia has seen state legislatures who have passed restrictions that make it harder for communities of color to vote. Each and every one of us, in particular here in Georgia, has seen polling places disappear in black precincts, drop boxes cut in areas with more black voters, and food and water has been banned as black voters wait in longer and longer lines. Once again, we move forward in our efforts to make it easier to vote, and we look back to find guidance from those who fought so similar a struggle, such as our beloved John Lewis. Ms. Woolard, I have questions for you. The State Election Performance Review Board recently conducted an in-depth and lengthy assessment of elections administration in Fulton County. This was part of a process instituted by SB 202 that could have led to a state takeover of elections administration in Fulton County. And as I understand it, the Performance Review Board concluded that a state takeover would not be helpful. Is this correct?
That's correct.
In your opinion, was the cost in time and money of the review for Fulton County an effective use of taxpayer resources?
No, I don't think so. And I think if you were to ask the members of the Performance Review Board, they were quite frustrated as well, because they were volunteers and they were required over the course of about 2 years to spend quite a bit of their time, in addition to their service on their local election boards, to follow us around and do work. I think if one were to do something like that, I will echo Dr. Ruth's comment that taking over a board is really not to be the outcome one should look at. But if you were to do something like this, to have very, very clear guidelines about time frame, what you're investigating, why you're investigating, and what would prompt it, and it can't be politicized, where in one county an investigation gets triggered on the basis of really people's public perceptions, whereas in another county where there's criminal activity being alleged and there's no performance investigation happening.
Okay, thank you. So it seems that fighting off a partisan-inspired takeover attempt must have monopolized an incredible amount of time for Fulton County elections administrators such as yourself. Did this impact the ability of the county to perform other really vital election duties, or indirectly danger or hamper the ability of Georgia voters to have access to the ballot box?
You know, I think one of the things that I learned as being the chair of this board was that a lot of the effort that I needed to put into my work and the work of our board was to find ways to preserve time for our staff to do the work that they needed to do. The work that they don't need to do, the voter challenges, the performance review, multiple performance reviews and audits, the open records requests, the lawsuits, the subpoenas, the depositions, those are things that get in the way of us doing the complicated logistics of managing an election.
Thank you, and I yield back.
General